Right, look what we have. Hillman Imp Super. And interesting story about this engine. Coventry Climax, famous racing crowd, but in World War II they needed a pump, a fire pump essentially, and this engine is based off that, and that's what saved England. Essentially, this engine was putting out all the fires from all the bombing raids. So eventually then got put into a car. This particular one, 39 horsepower. Right, 1974 Hillman Imp, and the customer's telling me the engine won't start. So, pop the bonnet. Well, there's the problem. There's no engine. Obviously I'm joking, people. The engine is in the rear-wheel drive Hillman Imp. Interesting story about this car, about a lot of, well, the Hillman Imp in general. I'll go through a quick history with it. A long time ago, when they were being made, the group company wanted to make a new car, loosely based on an American car. So all my American followers, put down in the link, or put down in the description what you think this car was actually modelled off. What particular American car. It was like a homage to. Let me know what you think. And basically, they wanted help from the government to build a car, a brand new car from scratch, and the government says, well, we'll only give you help if you employ, workers that are out of work, basically, and we'll tell you where the workers are and what you need to do. And they said, okay, so the workers were from Scotland, I believe the original ones, and they were from building ships. Skilled workers for building ships, but unfortunately not for building cars. They never built cars before. Brand new factory, brand new car, unproven, all that sort of stuff. So unfortunately, the first few of these were really, really bad. 37 horsepower was the original ones. But things like literally the doors would fall off when people would open them and stuff like that. Because again, brand new factory, workers wasn't used to building cars. Everything was new, and also back then, unfortunately, they had so many strikes over literally nothing. It was very difficult for car manufacturers to actually keep their workers in the factory. I've heard some stories, I don't know how true they are, but there's a famous story about someone, I think it was in, was it Austin? I can't remember, but anyway, essentially, one person asking someone the time, and he wasn't the official timekeeper, and they went on strike over that. So this is what they were dealing with back then, unfortunately. It was very difficult to keep all your workers in the factory, so of course work suffered from that. Car company got into bother, just like DeLorean, new factory, new car, got into bother without the drugs, this is. And Chrysler then came and took it over, and this is actually a Chrysler Imp. And they were built so much better. And yeah, an American car built better, I know. Built so much better, and they did a few tweaks, and they were just better, because again, the Chrysler company knew how to build cars. They were involved with it. They knew what they were doing. Where when you start a brand new company and workers that don't really not understand, but not used to building cars, it kind of, it causes issues. So this is basically a Coventry Climax based engine, or is based on that. Very famous racing crowd. And when this started out, like I said, it was 37 horsepower. This is 39. But when the tuning boys got a hand of it, towards the end of its career, when it was racing, it was actually 110 horsepower. Which again, for the size of the car, it was a little rocket, and it was just beating everything. It was beating the minis at the time. The success on track was absolutely phenomenal. And this one is an 875cc. As you can see, it is canted like 40 odd degrees to actually make it fit inside here. These did have issues, just like every car kind of back in the day, and especially the original Hillmans had massive issues with overheating. Again, because of just the way everything was. And of course, in modern day world, these have also massive issues with overheating because, you know, modern traffic moves a hell of a lot faster, and there's motorways now where, you know, there wasn't really when they were built. So there's a few things you actually have to do. You actually have to polish the fans on these. Because you can see all this crap on here, it absolutely kills the efficiency of the fan. So you can actually polish the fan. But what we're going to do eventually, I think, on this is get an aluminium radiator, an electric fan. I think we can put an electric fan on this. It might be a bit awkward because the way it's designed and built to do something anyway, I'm sure. You know, original dynamo on them. You can get alternators now to look like dynamos, which is obviously handy, but I don't know if this one is. I'll have to check it out. It's been converted to electronic ignition, which is again key because points are a waste of time. I'm going to take the battery out of the Mercedes because the battery we've been using in the Mercedes is for this car. Good news about the Mercedes, there was only 2 little drips of oil, which was from the sump, which we knew. The slave cylinder hadn't gone down, the brakes, everything perfect. So that's some great news about that. Let me take this battery out and put it in the Imp. Right, this car is all original, 1974, and it's only got 21,000 miles, original miles on this car, original paint, and it's in really good nick considering, you know, original paint, original everything. This car has been stood for 5 years. Nothing's happened for 5 years. But when it was put away working. And then basically not touched. Please turn my listen to. Not touched for 5 years. So we're going to have to do a bit similar to what we did with the Merc. Flush the radiator. Petrol. And just the brakes aren't actually seized on it, which is brilliant. We just pushed it out. So it's going to be similar to the Merc, full service, coolant. We're going to have to clean the fans, polish them, and just basically check everything. Now I couldn't get any parts for this, unfortunately, quick enough, but that still doesn't stop us from starting it and, you know, just making sure there's nothing major with it. Will it start? You can see the filter here, there's a good bit of rust in it, so there's obviously the tank's going to be an issue, I'm guessing. The filter has been taken off, or the pipes have been taken off so we can get to the carb. We're going to have to shove a bit of petrol down there to make it start a little bit easier, and we need to get some petrol as well, and then we can basically go from. Right, but very posh for the time. We have a light on the inside. We are posh people here, which doesn't work in the sense of that should switch off, but it's not. So I'm going to take this bulb out because I don't want it to wear down my battery. So there's obviously an issue. Let me just shut the door, see if it does go off. It should do. It's not going off with the. No, it does. But why isn't it going off when I press the button in? Unless it earths to the car, does it? Oh, it is now. Anyway, we're going to take that off because we don't need it wearing down the battery. We've got a heater. Yeah, very posh. Lovely handbrake. Lovely gear stick. And we have a choke here. And the obligatory wood, if you can call it that. Oil pressure, battery charge, speedo, 100 mile an hour. They were reaching a bit on that, I think. I just want to see if we do have ignition anyway. Have the heater. Just want to make sure. Yeah, lights work. Yeah, full beam. Okay. I just like to make sure everything kind of works. That's no, not. But just to make sure everything works, nothing goes funny. There's no bad smells. There's no wires burning. So I'm just going to leave the ignition on for a few minutes. I'm just going to walk around the car to see if I can smell anything, hear anything before I actually attempt to start this. Right, and famous rally driver Rosemary Smith was winning a lot with one of these bad boys back in the day. And yeah, like I said, very successful kind of car, racing car back in the day. And even Rosemary Smith, I believe she's still alive now. And I also believe, I remember hearing that her Hillman Imp rally car just sold recently in the last few years. I believe, I'll have to check that out to be 100% sure, but I'm sure I heard something about that. And I think it went for a nice amount too. Just realised. Now, he told me this is all original from when he got it. He got this in London. But these are rethreaded tyres. They're a rethread tyre. Which is highly illegal now. But obviously back when he got it, it wasn't. But it's highly illegal now because they're bloody dangerous. Not that this particular car is going to be setting any land speed records, but still. Right, the power is still on. And there's no signs of anything weird, which is obviously a good sign. I've just noticed something. Oh. It's got a bit of oil in. That rotary arm is a bit terrible. I'll have to just get some sandpaper on that, look. But the starter motor wire, look. Well, not only is it loose, it's actually melted. It's actually melted, so we might need to do something with that. Again, not today, but it's just things to note that we need to do for future. So I'm going to clean that because that's gonna stop us, or certainly hinder us from starting. Or if you really want to mess with someone with an old rotary cap, if you open up and get a pencil and draw a line in it, the sparks will go to the carbon of the pencil and not here, and the car won't start, and it'll take them ages to figure out why. If you want to be cruel. Hopefully the solenoid isn't gammy. We could always bypass it if it is, but hopefully it isn't. So we'll just check the oil. I'll check the oil. Make sure we've got oil in it. That's why maybe there was no leaks. There's no oil in it. Certainly not enough. Well, there's enough, but there's not. There's enough to what we need to do with it, but it's going to need oil. Yeah, it's going to need oil. So already, just from very quick visual looks, I can see obviously a few things. We're going to want to replace the starter motor wire. Also, this earth wire is, again, it's actually loose as well. So that's another thing I'm going to have to sort out now, especially now. It's just old and gammy. That's kind of old and gammy. These are things you just need to look for on an old car, and it's best just to essentially replace everything. There's no point humming and ahhing. Things like the big power leads and the earth leads and stuff like that, they're so cheap. just to replace, and you can make your own up. You can buy all the bits separately, you know, the little tools to clamp the stuff down, the wires, and you can upgrade them from, you know, a lot thicker now, and just make it, you know, just make it a lot more reliable. Even with the original alternators, you can get them to look like the dynamos now, so it doesn't look particularly wrong or anything like that. They look exactly the same, but they're an alternator. You know, just a few modern touches to keep them basically reliable to a degree. It's just no harm. You know, modern radiators, modern electric fans, stuff like that. Now, granted, in this particular case, it's a little bit harder to do that, but it's still possible because of the way the actual fan works with everything. But there is ways around it, and you know, we're going to completely flush the radiator out. We're going to do a lot to it, but I'm just going through everything. The ignition is on just to see if there's anything going to kind of scary. That's going to not allow us to start easily, so I'm going to clean that, like I said. Just go through everything before I do start it. I'm going to disconnect. I'm not going to allow it to start. I'm going to disconnect everything, and I want to build up the oil pressure to see if the light goes out and if we've got actual oil pressure before I actually start. Because that's the last thing we want to do is blow the engine up. I knew you'd do that. And yeah, there's water in there, but again, we're going to flush all that out. But what we need to do is get it started first, which could be a bit of a biatch, to be honest, but we'll see. Now, the beauty about that is I've disconnected the power now, so there's no power going through it, and it allows me to get to this a bit easier. Also, what's going to be a bit different to this car on all the older bits, it's going to be Imperial. Yeah, so there is a few modern tweaks like that, but there's going to be some Imperial bits on this. See, now I can put this spanner in here and I'm not worried about it sparking because there's no power going to anything. And of course, that's Imperial. Yep. Or is it just because it's melted all the way in there? I can't get the spanner on it. Nope, it's Imperial. I knew it would be. Okay, that's why mostly this is heated up, because it's loose. And then you get spark, and you get heat, and then you get fire. Kind of in that order. And especially older cars. Now, that's a lot better. Still a bit in it, but it all needs to be replaced, so I can't get any more on that without doing damage. What I'm also going to do is put some light oil down each cylinder, just to help very little. And we crank it over, so we're not cranking it over completely dry. But the car's been in a very well insulated shed, so, and like I said, the brakes aren't seized, so we're not worried about, you know, a lot of stuff, to be honest. Brakes seized in the Merc and not the Imp. You believe that? Plugs are very black. But again, you'd kind of expect that. But they don't look worn. Just need a good clean, which we'll do. We'll take them all out and clean them. I'll do all that before I put them back in, and yeah. the plugs have been upgraded because of the electronic ignition. These wouldn't be standard plugs that you would get in an Imp, because you can put electronic ignition, you can upgrade the plugs to make obviously a lot better spark, because there's no point putting electronic ignition in and having plugs that can't take it, because then there's no point. You've got a lot better spark, just a million times better spark, more of it, so you can put better plugs in to make the engine run a million times better. So let me get all these plugs out, put a bit of 3-in-1 oil down there, very light oil, and clean them all, put them all back. We should have some petrol by then, and then we'll be good to go. Right, and just take one plug off at a time so you don't get the firing order mixed up. It's very simple to actually figure it out. The firing order in this is 1, 3, 4, 2. This is number 1, so you go to this, the rotary arm goes that way. So this is number 1. The next one here should be number 3, which it is. Next one then should be number 4, again, which it is. And the last one should be number 2, which it is. So as long as you know this is number 1 here, and again, number 1 can't go to number 4, you can see it's too short. You can very easily work it out, and you can actually even work it out by how long they are, but that's how you do it with the rotary arm. Very simple, and yeah, it's just take one off at a time. It's just that little bit easier. And now that's clean. Take out number 2, and we'll just see. Just cleaning with the wire brush, bit of WD, get the carbon and all the crap off it as best you can. Again, we do need new plugs, but for what we're doing this time, it's going to be good enough. I've got some oil, 1540 mineral oil that goes into this, so we can top that up before we start it. And again, just kind of a bit black, but there's nothing broken. Nothing that stands out to me that looks bad there, which is obviously a good thing. Now when you do this, you do need to be careful you don't actually push the electrodes together and make the gap bigger or smaller. So yeah. I'm just going to go through all this, and once I've done, put the oil in, get the petrol in, get the oil pressure built up, and then we'll see what we can do. Right, I am finding other things as well. Hopefully the camera picks that up. See all the cracks that's in this water pipe here. Again, it might not be leaking, but this 100% has to be replaced. And to be honest, I think maybe all these pipes will have to be replaced. Because they're going to be original. They're going to be the original pipes. So, you know, to be fair, they've lasted a while. But I can just feel they've all gone. They've just all gone hard. Even though that one, well, no, that one is cracked. Look, this car is going to need a complete set of hoses for it. And I'm wondering if we could maybe get. Don't know if they're available for this, but silicone hoses. But black ones, not obviously big racing red ones or anything, but modern silicone hoses. Because again, I know some people say, well, you need to keep it original, otherwise you devalue it, you put anything. No, you're just talking shit. It's like putting an alternator on this that looks exactly the same as a dynamo. Electronic ignition. It doesn't devalue the car, it makes it reliable. And putting, if it's possible, now I don't know if it's going to be possible, but if it is possible, I'd be telling them to get silicone hoses, black silicone hoses for this, because they can make them now that they look original, but they're silicone hoses, and they'll last a lifetime of the car. So I've got some. Just wanna give this a bit of a lick. Again, it's just gonna make it so much easier to start with it having be all nice and clean. Done all my plugs. I've put all the oil down there. There's this one. So, what I want to do now is, actually before I do that, let me just double check the oil level to make sure it's definitely low, which it is. We'll put some 1540 mineral oil in it. Give it every chance to build up oil pressure. We will disconnect this here so it can't start. I just had a quick look at the rad, and it looks like a 3-core or 3-row rad, 3-core rad in it, which isn't the best rad to have in these. Again, especially for modern day traffic, but we're really close now. More in, and then we will try and build up oil pressure. Now we'll put a little bit of petroleum in it. And the reason I'm going to do that as well is because obviously there's no petrol in the carburetor. I'm going to maybe have to squirt some petrol down into the carburetor. Why isn't this going on? Oh, it's because it's moved. But as I'm turning it over, oh, that's completely crushed in that. As I'm turning it over, the petrol can be, you know, trying to get into the carburetor, and then, you know, just going to make it easier to start. So let me do that. Petrol. Right, especially on the first start or the first fill, whatever, of a car that's been sitting for a while, don't put too much petrol in, because you could have a leak and it's just going to leak everywhere. So I'm just going to really put enough in just to allow it to start, more so than anything else. Now, should hopefully be enough for what we need for the minute. Let's check underneath. No signs of any early leaks. It's obviously a good thing, because we don't want it to bloody blow up on us, do we? This will even... Well, the gauge works, but let's see if this will even turn over. It does. It sounds good as well. Sounds really good. Boom. Oil pressure. Right. That's good. I'm happy we've got oil pressure. Oh, and we've even got fuel. I wasn't expecting fuel to be up there that quickly, to be honest. But yeah, we've got fuel. Seems though we've got fuel there. I was going to pour some down the carburetor, but we are really close if we haven't got fuel already in there. And I don't want to pour too much down and hydrolock the engine or anything like that. Doesn't appear to be any leaks at the minute, which is obviously a good thing. Yeah. Try and start it. No. The answer to that is no.
You know what the choke is?
Yeah, choke's on, yeah.
Hey!
That was the easy start. If you want to hop in there and start, well, I squirt a bit of easy start in it.
Right. It does take a long time for the car to start unless you put a little drop of fuel down.
Yeah, well, the easy start is essentially it.
Okay, so ready the car?
Yeah, just kind of, yeah.
Okay, just a second.
We're close. There we go.
Yeah,
Oh.
I let the choke off too soon.
Yeah, done.
I'll start again?
Yeah. There we go. No, keep it going.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Okay.
I was just shouting yes. Woo! Keep it going. Listen to that purr. Not bad considering it hasn't been started in 5 years. Right, the choke is on. Quite high, but it's absolutely, the engine sounds sweet. Now I have to be careful it's not going to overheat on us. Maybe just knock the choke off a little bit. It is revving it. No, you git. There we go. The carburetor's got a bit of crap in it. That's half the problem. I just want to make sure it's not overheating. There's no leaks that I can see at the minute, which is obviously good. Yeah, no leaks. See all of the crap coming through now. That's just all crap petrol and bits of crap. She's not happy. She is not happy, but we will make it happy. Just letting the choke off very slowly. I'm going to do the same thing with the carburetor which I did with the Mercedes. Basically rev the tits off it, put my hand over it to smother it and let it pull some of the crap through. And I'm also going to squirt some carb cleaner down it as well. I'm just worried about the temperature at the minute. I want to make sure it's pumping all the water through like it should do. See, it's a lot happier now. I knew I was going to do it too much there. Tiny bit more choke. Just a bit of carb cleaner before I do the old trick. Right, just let me monitor this to make sure it's all okay, and once I know it is, I'll turn the camera back on. I put the stuff inside the radiator to, you know, the radiator flush, so that's working its way through now. Carb cleaner, petrol treatment, so important with an old car. This stuff is good, but what I really prefer is Red X. Right, let's see if we can get off choke. We're close. I don't know if I should go the last little bit. We're really close to being off choke there now. You can see it's stumbling a little bit. I'm going to have to do the old trick, rev the tips off it, put my hand over it. Kind of do that now. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. You listen to that already. The difference that made. It was stumbling a hell of a lot more than that there now. So I'm going to do that a few more times. I just want to let it heat up a little bit more. Try and get it off choke completely. But so far so good. No major leaks. We know we're going to have issues. Obviously full service, change filters. Rebuild the carburetor. I'm going to get a carburetor kit for it. I'm going to also tell him to get, oh, she's stumbling there now. But yeah, it's not bad considering it's been stood here for 5 years, doing nothing. Alright, should we risk it? Off choke. There we go. She's off choke. I just want to keep an eye on oil. I also got to keep an eye on temperature. Temperature is good. I put a bit more fuel in it as well as the additive. The temperature is good. Oil pressure is still okay. It's charging the battery according to this, but I don't know if that's 100% true yet, but it's looking good. Look at the steering wheel. Woo. Sit up and beg. Lovely glove box that I've just broke. Oops. There we go. Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, people. Nothing to see here. Completely off choke. Yeah. Completely off choke. Lovely. It's just so of its time, isn't it? Brakes. Oh. Brake pedals. Brake pedals gone. Are the brakes locked on now? Yeah, brakes are locked on. Shit. Oh, I was afraid about that. I was afraid about that. Brakes are now locked on.